This is Kelly Davis, your host of the Untold Miracles podcast, and today I am so honored to interview a very special guest. He's an NBA champion, a 5-time NBA All-Star, Olympic Gold Medalist, Arthur Ashe Award recipient, and philanthropist who uses his voice and platform to help erase the stigma around mental health. He has a big heart for helping others, especially through the pandemic. Mr. Kevin Love, welcome to the podcast.
Kelly, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you today because, first of all, I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm a big fan of yours, but I'm really excited for our conversation because on this podcast, we talk about miracles, but I love talking to people who go out and create miracles for those around them. And I feel like that's what you've done during this pandemic. And just before we start, I just want to note a few. You gave $100,000 to the staff at the facility where the Cavs play. You sent a truckload of food to the Cleveland Clinic. You talked to those staff. You thanked them. You gave $500,000 to the Kevin Love Fund Chair at the UCLA Psychology Department to help diagnose, prevent, treat anxiety and depression, which right now, what could be more important than that? You've done PSAs, you spoke about it, and these are just a few things that you've done, but I just want to acknowledge how great of a human being you are and really truly what you're doing to create miracles. So just before we start, I just want to put that out there.
Thank you so much. It's very nice.
Well, you're the one doing the work, so thank you. But on this podcast, as I mentioned, we talk about miracles, and I want you to start with the miracles in your personal life. I want you to talk about being a little kid growing up in Oswego, Oregon, and I want to know what your dreams were. Did they involve basketball? And if so, what did you learn from your dad who happened to play in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, he was, my dad, Stan Love, was the one who put the ball in my hands at a very early age. And he had played, he was All-American at the University of Oregon. He was All-American at Morningside High School in California, right in Los Angeles. And, went on to the NBA. He was drafted 9th in 1971 by the Baltimore Bullets, now the Washington Wizards. So he was the one who put the ball in my hands. I had basketball in my family, and that was really all I saw for myself early on. And in some ways, growing up, my entire identity was all wrapped around basketball. But for me, it was like the singular focus to make it to the NBA. And I knew that a lot of good things would come from that. I'd be able to take care of my family. I'd be able to play this game that I love and grew up loving and idolized so many different great players throughout that time. But I think what's evolved over time is just the ability and reach that we have as athletes. I really believe that I'm so lucky and so fortunate and so happy to play in a league where we're not only the league doesn't only have our backs, but they drive us and push us to have these conversations and talk about these big ideas and how we can make an impact on our community domestically and then abroad. Like really take everybody in the world into account. And I think the reason we're here, we're talking about obviously mental health. Like this affects everyone. It doesn't discriminate. And I've been on this journey the last 2 years. So just being able to, even just pay it forward and help that one kid. I always say that in everything that I do. All it takes is that one kid, and it's a spiral effect of being able to affect the family, the classroom, the grandparents, the friends. It just has this pay it forward spiral type effect, domino type effect that can be really, really beautiful.
Well, I love when you received your ESPYs award, and you had said in the article that you wrote coming out about your mental health journey, everyone is going through something that we can't see. And I just think that is so powerful because, for me, I've been living with anxiety and depression for 20 years. And a lot of times there's days you don't want to get out of bed and days you just don't think you're going to make it. But for you to come out and use your platform and for them to share a story about Mason, this little boy going through some crazy things, and you're his hero, and he has hope because of you. Tell me what that means to you when you can meet those kids like Mason and hear those stories of people that really feel like they might be able to hang out another day because of something that you've done for them.
Yeah, well, with Mace, it's funny. He just messaged me the other day on my birthday, and we keep in contact through social media. And that's where there's two sides of social platforms and social media, right? But it's such an important thing to do, to just connect with fans, and then you end up sometimes having a more personal relationship with them. I was just, sent a bunch of stuff from my locker actually out to New York, and I have all these jerseys. So I'm like, okay, which kid can I give a signed jersey to that I can inspire somebody who's going to, take this and be like, wow, I want to be a basketball player someday. But with Mace, like, love basketball, his family from Cleveland, they live in Phoenix now. He was there after a game with a sign holding up, everybody's going through something, that Players Tribune article that I did. So I told our security guard, Rod Williams, I said, grab the family, bring them after the game. I want to talk to him. So that's how we really started our relationship. He came to Cleveland. We continued to talk. He came and watched us play there. And it just kind of took on a life of its own. But just like I said, having that impact, and I think I saw it most, and I didn't really know it until I saw the video for the Arthur Ashe Award, is that how much it really affected his mother. And it's such, like, as a mom, I imagine it's just such a nurturing thing in that relationship between them. I was really happy to have not only helped Mace, but helped the family as well. That's what I mean. It just trickles down and helps everybody included. But Mace and I still talk. We still message back and forth. And, whenever he's having a bad time, he might write me a little note. I'll hit him right back. And, it's just it's a really cool way to have an impact on somebody's life. And again, it's just, he's one kid, but to be able to do that, I never thought I'd be sitting in this position now and be somebody's or hero, or even just somebody that they look up to. It's pretty, it's hard to put into words, but it's pretty remarkable. And basketball has really leveraged that for me and, allowed me to make a big impact.
Well, so for people who don't know about your journey, on March 6, 2018, you released an essay about your experience. And I would love for you to share what led up to that, to give you the courage to share that. Actually,
you, Kelly, had mentioned earlier, just, so many years of struggling and battling anxiety, battling depression. And it's hard. It's exhausting to live in the shadows. There really isn't, there's, until you go through it, you don't really understand what it's like and how exhausting it really is. Like, you don't want to get out of bed certain days. I still have those days. I journal, I write these type of things on the Players Tribune, these articles, first-person articles where, I continue to try and peel back the layers, because there was so much that led up to it. It wasn't just that year, which happened to be a very, very trying year for me, but it was an accumulation and combination of a number of things and pillars in my life that had just continued to fall. And then basketball being my safe place that year had fallen as well, not only early in the season, but I had broken my hand too. So that emotional outlet, that love for the game and being able to escape, these thoughts, because the thoughts sometimes can be so disturbing, it was always basketball. I didn't have that. So that led me to wanting to express myself openly, share my story, and not let anybody else tell my story other than me, because there were some rumblings and some people talking about, hey, Kevin, it's looking like Kevin's dealing with this, or, is he going to be unreliable because he deals with mental health issues? So I said, okay, now it's time for me to stop living in these shadows, speak my truth. And I always say now, and what I've learned is really nothing haunts us like the things we don't say. Like, I try to live outwardly and express myself that way. And it's actually helped me feel a lot more comfortable in my own skin. And it led me to that point. Like I said, I didn't realize, it's been that long. March 6th, 2018 is, it seems like yesterday, but it also seems like forever ago. It's been a hell of a journey. I'm still learning quite a bit. It's almost like, the more I figure out, the more I realize I don't know. So I'm just trying to have these conversations, talk to people, every demographic, understanding it doesn't discriminate, and just really, really listen, like actively listen to people.
You had mentioned that you sought therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. What are some tools that you use on a daily basis that people that are experiencing depression and anxiety right now can really turn to?
There's a lot. I'm very fortunate that, I have the means to be able to do cognitive behavioral therapy. We're working with my fund, the Kevin Love Fund. I know we'll talk about that, but just trying to get these resources and even just people involved, helping people that are underserved, underprivileged, people are getting underutilized. And, for every 10,000 people suffering in the US, there's only one person that's working in that field that's actually able to help them with CBT. So I totally understand that. I see that. The same thing I can say for medication, but I mentioned being able to escape, whether that's working on yourself. Routine is huge for me. I'm a creature of habits. Basketball, sports, working out, always been an escape for me. I journal quite a bit because it's a way for me to look back and connect the dots, and it's a great way for self-reflection. I have lacked a little bit this summer, but try to do a lot of breathing exercises, especially when I get worked up. Like in the morning, I try and do my work early and get out of bed, stretch, and then just like breathe through it. It's like a really great way to treat your body and treat your mind at the same time. So those are just a few examples. I mean, eating healthy is another one, and those all kind of are synergistic and help my sport as well. But those are just a few ways and easy fixes that I think that you can really help yourself, but also just be relentlessly curious. I guess the last thing you would say is just continue to be creative. Try to have an artistic mind and open yourself up. Don't get so involved with one thing that it consumes your entire identity in a real unhealthy way. Like that's how it was for basketball for me for so long. And it was a gift and a curse. I think the biggest thing that you can find is balance. So anything that's going to help you with that, move towards that.
I think a lot of times with men, it can be harder because my friend Lewis Howes wrote in his book, The Mask of Masculinity, men are supposed to wear masks and they don't share their emotions. And what helped you get to the other side of seeing this as very empowering to talk about this versus a weakness?
Yeah, that was really hard, especially because, you talk about masculinity and toxic masculinity, and you see that quite often in sports, and you see it quite often in the NBA as well. It's like you don't want to expose that because it's like a weapon that I always talk about. Sometimes mental health is looked at, if you have a problem or you're dealing with an issue, that it's like somebody can use it against you, and it's just another weapon. Or if it comes contract time, or if it comes a time to make a big decision in game, or we're going to be able to trust you. It just kind of takes on a life of its own. So for me to get to that point to share my story, it took me a lot because I didn't know how people were going to accept it, or if they would at all, or say going to be, he's soft, or he's somebody, he's not going to last in the NBA. Like what's going to happen to my livelihood? But more importantly, my joy of playing basketball, because it was my, really my first love. So once I got over that hump, and I allowed myself to be vulnerable, and I allowed myself to open up in a major way, I think it was the community more than anything. I think the sense of community and understanding that so many people struggle and so many people have a unique story to themselves when it comes to mental health, that allowed me just to take, like the deepest breath in like 20 years that I could have possibly taken. And it was just so important for me to get that, and it allowed me to understand, okay, wow, like me being this way, I'm going to be able to help a lot more people. And then we're going to take this army and this community, and we're just going to try and help everybody that we can. So that's been something, especially as a man too, as a male figure who, was always taught to and told to suppress these type of things. Like you just do not show it. It goes past sports. It transcends sports. Like you just do not show weakness. These are emotions that you just do not show. And I think that can, be a slippery slope. I really do.
Well, I think what's really important from your journey is the game when you had the panic attack, you felt like you were going to die. You couldn't breathe, but you took action to get help. So I want listeners to know that it's okay to be going through these, and then there are tools and resources, but you have to take the action. You have to talk to somebody. You have to lean into one of these things. Otherwise, it's a really long, hard journey. But just reach out to those people like your friend, Damar, who shared his story, and he really encouraged you. He gave you really what you needed to be out and use your voice. And so I just think that's what's so great is you went, you got the help. You weren't worried about what people would say. You just did it because you knew it was the best for you and for other people. But I want to talk about the Kevin Love Fund. You helped You built this to help improve physical and emotional well-being with the goal, and your goal is so impressive, to assist 1 billion people over the next 5 years. So I would love to know your vision for how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it all started, like you said, after March 6, 2018, when I saw the community behind, just mental health in general, and so many people that were suffering silently. I can remember we had to, it wasn't just the direct messages on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, any of these platforms. It just got to be so much that we said, okay, hold on. I need to, tweet out. I need to make sure that everybody knows that there's a place that they can share their stories and do it safely. So we set up an email address, and I think it was within the first 3 days, we had 6,000 emails. Wow. And then within the first week, we had close to 10,000. So that fast forward to, I guess it would be September 17th of 2018, we started the Kevin Love Fund, like you said, with the hopes of inspiring people to live their healthiest lives while providing tools for both physical and emotional well-being. So it's really taken on a life of its own. It's been an amazing thing. I think it's continued to transcend, the last 2 years, the times that we've been in. It's been going through COVID and going through all the social injustice and Black Lives Matter, to now, even back home on the West Coast, whether it be California, whether it be Oregon, obviously Washington as well. But my girlfriend, where she's from, it's affected with the wildfires as well, and people being placed out of their homes and not being able to go outside once again, not only for COVID, but now because of the air quality. Like my girlfriend, she's from Vancouver, BC. It's the worst air quality in the world right now. So she's worried about her family. Her parents are getting older. So, that's just, it all encompasses what we're trying to do. So we focus on 4 pillars, and it's stigma. Stigma is the number one, just eliminating that. It's men and women, people of all color. Like I said, it doesn't discriminate. We have to continue to keep speaking about it, continue to keep doing this, because if somebody doesn't talk about it, if we don't continue to talk about it, you're far less likely to detect that something's going on. It goes hand in hand with the screening process and early treatments and early intervention. So then we have education. We're doing actually a really cool pilot program where, kids, 9th and 10th graders, so 15 and 6-year-olds, are able to tell their first person story in a number of creative ways. But it's really cool. I wish that I would have had that early on, and I was in a safe space to be able to do that. So that's something that we're doing. It's been going really, really well. We're getting a number of people from all different demographics, obviously 15, 16-year-olds, but different demographics, and it's going really well. And these last two go hand in hand. It's tools and research. Like, we want to provide tools. That's in our mission statement. I think we want to be able to provide tools for everybody, no matter what your socioeconomic status is, how much money you have, whatever it may be. And then the research component, like we've already worked with UCLA Psych Department. We've worked with, a number of great universities when we've been able to, pair with and work with people like Bring Change to Mind, Just Keep Living, the Entertainment Industry Foundation, Headspace. So like partnering with people who have been there and done that before really teaches us kind of where we need to go and how we can cut out a chunk of this space where we can actually make the most impact. So I think it's going to continue to evolve, especially throughout this time with the numbers you're seeing with both anxiety and depression that continues to go like this. I think we're going to be able to have a really massive impact. And I know that 1 billion people in the next 5 years is a pretty lofty goal, but we want to reach for whatever we can reach for. And I think that we're going to make a massive impact. I really do.
Well, I love that. Well, in the NBA, you hold a lot of records. And I believe that you can hold this record. You've done it before, you can do this. And it's truly, I love your intention behind it. It's really just coming from a place of, we want to help as many people possible. And so if people wanted to learn more about your fund and how they could utilize that for themselves, where would they go?
So kevinlovefund.org, super easy, kevinlovefund.org. I'll say it again. You can go there, learn everybody that we've partnered with, how you can work with us. If you want to make a donation, you can make donations on the page, but go to kevinlovefund.org. Yeah, I mean, it's on all of my platforms as well. Just go check it out. I would love you guys to, or everybody watching this, to check out what we're doing, because it's pretty, and we make it fun too. It's going to be, continue to be really fun for people and affect the masses. Like I said, it's a great spot.
Well, I know we sent you a video from one of our Miracle Kids. We treat 10 million kids at 170 children's hospitals across the country. One of those hospitals is just for mental health. It's Shodare Children's Hospital in Montana. And I know that you impacted Bella. And I mean, she lives with bipolar, but she shares her story and it helps so many other kids. So thank you for what you're doing.
Bella, love you, Bella.
I have a couple quick fire questions for you before we end, if that's okay. You
Sure.
prepared for this? Okay.
I don't know, but yes.
Who's your biggest mentor?
My biggest mentor. That's a great question. And it's funny to say my agent, but he really is like, he's acted as, in some ways, a father figure to me, like a best friend, and honestly, like an agent. He always says, I'm going to talk to you like a friend. I'm going to talk to you like an agent. But like, he's become so much. It's hard to put a label on what he is, but like overall, a mentor, he is that to me. He's just a special person, family oriented, and just an overall great dude. And that was honestly why, I began working with him, and it's just continued to evolve.
Do you want to give him a shout out?
Jeff Schwartz, big shout out. Chappie.
Okay. Who did you look up to most as a little kid in the game of basketball?
Who did I look up to most? I mean, initially, I think I said that earlier, was my father. I mean, just because we were in the same orbit, obviously.
Right.
But
if it wasn't your dad.
It's funny. It was probably the guys that are on TNT right now. It's Shaq and Charles Barkley. Those were two guys I just completely idolized. But if it had to be one of those two, it would be Shaq. Like I mailed in, messages to him, handwritten. I probably had all sorts of grammatical errors and spelling was wrong. But, whoever it was that was sending me back, like the Shaq fan club stuff, thank you very much. That had a big impact on me when I was a kid. So, that was really my hero growing up in terms of basketball.
Love that. Your favorite book?
Ooh, this is a tough one. I think probably in terms of basketball, life overall, like just digging into, I guess, everyday struggle or what comes from the beauty of the struggle and long-term, the journey. Cause it's always like that arrival that, you love it, but then you think of, okay, what's the next thing? And you realize the journey is really the thing that you just absorb the most out of and the biggest learning experience. So I would say Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's a incredible book, and really just taught me a lot about, my life in both on and off the basketball floor. So that's one of the, if not the top, very, very top and short list.
Most memorable game of your career outside of the NBA championship?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's probably the 2012 London Olympics, the gold medal game. And everything that came after that. I had a great moment with Kobe Bryant. After that game, I, got to wear the red, white, and blue. And, it's so much different to play for the name on the front of your chest as opposed to the back. And that USA across, getting to represent your country, win a gold medal, just be slightly higher on the podium than, the second place in the silver medal team, which was Spain, was very, very, impactful on my life and something that I'll never forget. So yeah, outside of that 2016 Game 7, that was the one.
The loss that you learned the most from?
My grandmother, actually. I know that's
about this, and I really loved what you wrote about this, but please share.
Yeah, my grandmother, Carol Craig. She was just a special woman. Like it's funny because like I can remember, I give her like a pair of sneakers, and for the next year she would call me and just thank me. I'd be like, Grandma, I gave you those 9 months ago. She's like, I just love them so much. But she was just vicarious. She was like the cornerstone of our family and just lived vicariously through hers. Like you go up to her house and it was, right next to ours, very small, but like every square inch of the wall was covered with pictures of her children, her grandchildren. She just lived for family. She lived for really, really close friends. She lived for community. And that was it. Like she simplified life and was just such a happy woman. So like when she passed, looking back, I was like, man, I didn't spend enough time with her. I wouldn't say I took her for granted, but maybe I took for granted the time that we spent. And then on top of that, just being in the NBA and being separated and just being on this linear path, it kind of separated from me from my people that are back home in Portland, Oregon. So I think that is something I've been working on the last 2 years, and I had never like grieved because it was just coming at me so fast, life and the 82 plus games of basketball and then getting right back into it in the summertime. Like I never really got to grieve. So the last 2 years have been a great time for me to just pay my respects and love to her in a different way. And like anytime I meditate or, even, prayer or whatever, that encapsulates or means, or I just always think of her just because she just was such a good person and like really brought the good out of me. So like I try and channel that as much as I can. She's a special woman.
I love that. You've said something really profound that I read, and it says you can't overachieve your feelings.
Yeah.
How have you been able to get beyond maybe doing that in the past to just living in the present today?
Yeah, for me, as far as a depression goes, like I just thought I could achieve my way out of it, right? But then, you reach a certain goal, you attain a certain goal, and you think this is going to make me happy, or I get this material object, and I think this is going to make me happy. But then, your mood or the chemistry in your brain is always going to set you back to kind of that baseline where it says, okay, what's next? So I had to understand that and come to terms with it and change a lot, like I did with my anxiety, change my relationship with my depression or these really, really dark thoughts. So I think over time with the work I've done in the past 2 years, and listen, it's not like this happy story where the ending's already, it's a happy ending already. This is something where, I've had to work on it. A lot of days are better than others, but I just have so much more balance in my life. And I say, there's wins and there's lessons. So like there's so much to learn from, and there's so many, life moments that are teachers that I kind of lean on now and even use in some of the things that I'm doing in terms of the Kevin Love Fund is really use that and speak from experience. So, that idea of achievement for me has, kind of, waned. Obviously, I still want to do so much. And I look back and it's sad that I do that, but I look back with some regret, but also know that moving forward, I'm going to have a lot more joy in my life because I'm not going to take, those losses so hard. I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to move on. And then that idea of success and achievement will just be that much happier when I do get that.
So last question that I asked all my guests, and I want to acknowledge you for who you are and the miracles you create, and thank you for your time. But if there were 3 miracles that you could create in the world today, what would that look like for you?
I actually, like I mentioned about UCLA and working with them and their psych department, Dr. Michelle Krask, who is like a rock star. I always say like she deserves a statue. How like NBA, all great athletes have statues outside of their respective places they played. Like she deserves a statue from UCLA and their psych department, but she has really incredible, like quantifiable goals when it comes to mental health. And I think it's by like 2050, I'm gonna get, probably get this wrong, but by 2050, like cut the numbers in half when it comes to, anything mental health related, but I think anxiety and depression as well. And then by, it feels funny to say it, like 2100, like try and completely eradicate it. So those are very, very lofty goals. And, we are obviously trending in the wrong direction, as I mentioned earlier, but that's like a major, major goal. I want to just inspire so many people and be a part of her journey as well, because I do think it's an accumulation. I do think that the more numbers we have and the more people that tackle this together and knowing that it affects everyone, that is an absolute miracle, because it's just mental illness is just such a thief. And I think probably the biggest thief, I've said it a number of times, of human potential. So that, might take over all 3 miracles, but that is a miracle that I would love to see happen. And then I think just in the times we're in now, as far as, social justice and unity, I would love to see us, and I mean collective us, it's not just in America, but otherwise, just come together and find some sort of resolve, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, but find something where we can really take a major step forward. And I think after this year, everybody's going to be looking in the mirror and hopefully trying to find how they can help. Because if we come out of this time unchanged, that's probably the worst thing I believe that can happen. So, and I think all of those things go hand in hand. I mentioned that accumulation, but like after 2020, I hope there's a lot of time for self-reflection and hopefully there's a lot of people that are going to do a lot of good coming out of this.